Happy Memoriam. How's the weather up in this area?
Pretty dang nice.
Yeah.
This weekend it's supposed to snow, right?
Yeah, that's what I heard. You know, the snows that you're getting right now
No rain and snow, right?
make it, the other day it was great, but like on a day like today, it's the sun with it partly cloudy in and out. You gotta let it soften up a little bit. So I don't know, and you gotta get a lot of snow to make it nice on Saturday. So I don't know what they're calling for.
Was it windy today up there? Really?
Not really. I mean, it's been windy, but not like it's been this way.
Yeah, it's really windy here today.
Yeah,
Crazy.
it's a different year. I mean, the past 2 weeks definitely have been windy, but not, I mean, one day we got blown out for winds. That was what, 2 weeks ago on Monday. And then the next day we kept the area closed because no power, because XL was having a heck of a time between the tunnel and Baker or Georgetown,
Yeah.
Bakerville, that area. But
Mm.
yeah, No, you're fine.
Oh, yeah. If you intend to speak tonight, if you wouldn't mind, we do have a sign-in sheet.
One of those days.
Whole building went down.
No,
Plumbing.
I just saw online that Verizon, AT&T, all of them had problems today.
Yeah, on top of it.
Oh,
I encountered that, not here, but with somebody else from another.
you know,
There was no way to make calls, transmit money, nothing.
we didn't have any problems up there at all, but I know my daughter tried calling me and then I tried calling her back and I couldn't call her back at all. And yeah,
Yeah.
Some of the quality wasn't good either, the connection quality,
Yeah.
when you could get it.
up there, believe it or not, we didn't have any problems. So that's unusual.
This is the girls bouncing around in California like they were like living the big life. Cool.
Okay, so what's this? There's the traffic study.
Pretty simple what to do, walking around.
Oh, I like,
Kind of like.
yep, Swedish meatballs. Yeah. Okay, we'll get started. I'll call to order the planning commission meeting of April 20th, 2022. Roll call
Cindy Olson,
here.
Don Reimer,
Here.
Jordan Hudson, Chuck Howard, Tracy Stokes.
Here.
Uchi,
Chrysolite here.
thank you. Kent Slaymaker.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, approval of the minutes for April 6th, 2020. Do we have a motion for approval?
Make a motion to approve the minutes for April 6th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, any comments, corrections? Okay, all in favor, yes? Opposed, no? Okay. Approved.
You can't hear, so we're saying.
Sorry.
No, no, you're.
I'll try.
Nothing interesting yet.
Yeah, nothing. The next item on the agenda is public comment period. We just open the meeting with if somebody's got a public comment to do with anything other than what's on the agenda. So do we have anybody here for public comment? Oh, okay. The next item then is the public hearing. So I'm going to open the public meeting for the conditional use permit for rafting use at 1743 Minor Street. And the time is 6:04. And then a roll call again.
Cindy Olson,
Here.
Don Reimer, here. Jordan Hudson, Chuck Howard, Tracy Stokes.
Here.
Uchi Cruz.
Sunday. Here.
Thank you. I'm gonna have to practice that. Kent Slaymaker.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll start with the staff report.
All right, thank you very much, Planning Commission. Before you this evening is a request for a conditional use permit for a rafting use at 1743 Minor Street. So it is by Mile High Rafting and property is owned by Liberated Resources LLC. The current zoning of the property is in the historic district. And then the downtown district is the comprehensive plan designation for this site. So Mile High Rafting is requesting that they utilize the building for their operations, check-in, et cetera, for rafters, and then utilize the parking area and drive aisle for parking of patrons, having people get dressed and ready for rafting operation, and then having some storage in the form of an enclosed trailer on the property located further back, as indicated on the aerial image attached to the paperwork that they had submitted. See, zoning of the property, as I mentioned, the rafting use is a conditional use in the historic district. It is allowed in a few other districts, but here it's a conditional use. As a part of the conditional use, the Planning Commission and City Council can review this item, as well as staff can make recommendations as well that can add conditions above and beyond what are found in the ordinance. And so what staff has done is made a recommendation, but then also have made subsequent, if you do feel inclined to recommend approval, we've made some recommended conditions then. The conditional, or excuse me, the comprehensive plan does talk about the area being utilized for tourist services. However, it's staff's opinion that this falls within tourist activities rather than services, and it's staff's opinion that it's a little different in nature, rather than a retail souvenir shop or something of that nature that would still be under tourist services. There is an aerial site plan attached. Staff is somewhat concerned in regards to the site plan because it shows 12 parking spaces, but a number of those parking spaces being blocked by the proposed enclosed trailer that would hold rafting supplies, things that people, oars, et cetera, that people would come in and acquire before loading and heading out to the rafting location. So we do feel that that cuts down on the number of spaces available on the site. Staff is also concerned with the access and the traffic, mostly due to the inability for vehicles to turn around on the site. Staff has looked at aerials of the previous location and noted buses. We understand that buses are not being proposed. So, a van can make a 3-point turn on the property. It can't do a loop turn though with a trailer attached to it. And that's what staff's concern is there. And then staff also is concerned with the potential for backing off of Minor Street into the property. The location is definitely located in a higher traffic area, especially with the closure of Minor Street in the summer. We do see an increased traffic at that point in time, which is when the operation would be utilized. There is regulations in regards to the minimum parking requirements in the code. So the petitioner does meet the minimum parking requirements because it is based on building size. Staff is of the opinion that in a conditional use permit, though, that we can look at going a different direction from that existing code requirement. So that's why you see our concerns regarding parking. Screening, we're just, if it's just an enclosed trailer, that doesn't require any screening, but if there are rafts or something else stored outside on the property, that would require screening. We do have some findings of fact in this report that I'm happy to go over if so desired. There has been a subsequent document submitted just today in regards to the traffic study, and that is before you. It does talk about compliance with a number of items. One is the parking requirement in the code, as I've indicated. It also talks about the downtown plan. I think the main item that I have concern with in regards to the downtown plan and how it's being applied is that the traffic engineer references a section of the downtown plan that talks about the location being utilized for rafting, which it's there as a recreational item in that plan. But the plan also indicates that once the parking and other parking garage and other items are constructed, so that there will be capacity. So we are definitely concerned that we don't have that capacity now, but potentially in the future we may. Yeah, and I did speak with the traffic engineer earlier today in regards to the report and did ask him a number of questions about turning movements and backing. And, he believes that if it's just a van, that there isn't that much of a challenge. But if it is a van with a trailer, that there would be a challenge. So I did confirm that with him. With that, I would like to turn over to the petitioner for their presentation.
Hi, what's your name?
Jared.
Thank you, Jared.
Hi, can you please state your name and address for the record,
Of
please?
course, I'm Madison Wolf and I live at 243 Ridgeview Trail. Right up in the mountain.
Ridgeview Trail, you said, sorry.
Yeah, you okay?
Madison, the last name one more time?
Wolf, WOLFF.
Can you raise your right hand for me, please?
I sure can.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, I'm Madison Wolf and I'm here tonight representing Mile High Rafting and our request for a conditional use permit at 1743 Minor Street. Now, I would like to begin by referencing page 6 of the report you have provided to us, which states that the traffic analysis shall be submitted by the applicant and the indicated impact shall be evaluated by staff for compliance with Code Section 21-105. If staff determines that the traffic analysis credibly indicates impacts that comply with Code Section 21-105, the CUP shall be issued and operations on the property may begin consistent with the CUP. Having reviewed Code Section 21-105, we recognize the need to comply with requirements listed under sections F2 and F3. F2 reads as follows. The proposed use is in general conformance with applicable provisions of the comprehensive plan, or that the changed conditions occurring since the adoption of the comprehensive plan support approval of the proposed conditional use of the property. Now, I would like to point out that the comprehensive plan states specifically that tourism and tourism-supported industries will continue to be the mainstay of the local economy. Now, as a tourism industry and a tourism-supported industry, we are in direct compliance with the comprehensive plan. However, conditions have changed since the implementation of the comprehensive plan, which was accepted in November of 2017. Since then, as dictated on page 2 of the traffic analysis, the Idaho Springs downtown plan, referred to simply as the plan, has since been adopted as of December 2021. This plan now recognizes 1743 Minor Street as being zoned as tourism-related industries, which it then specifically defines as including museums, rafting, and biking. As a company that plans to present rafting and biking opportunities to tourists in the downtown Idaho Springs area, we are now in direct compliance with both the comprehensive plan recommendations as well as the Idaho Springs downtown plan recommendations. Now, Code Section 21-105 then goes into Section F3, which states that the proposed use will not result in impacts to adjacent properties, which are significantly different in nature, type, or extent than impacts caused by uses which are permitted by right in the zone district where the property is located. I believe this goes to a lot of your statements regarding the concerns of backing into Minor Street, impeding traffic. However, I would like to point out the fact that the proposed use would not result would result in an insignificant addition of trips to the surrounding network. That is a direct quote from the traffic analysis on page 3. It also states that the peak hour of the proposed use will occur outside of the peak hour of the adjacent street network. And finally, that no adverse impacts to the surrounding area are anticipated. You requested this traffic analysis, and the traffic analysis now states clearly that our traffic will not in any way impede the adjacent companies surrounding us. In addition to clarifying our direct compliance with Idaho Springs city planning initiatives, the traffic analysis also clarifies issues regarding parking. According to page 3 of the traffic analysis, the parking lot at 1743 Minor Street currently provides 10 parking spaces with additional pavement available for loading and unloading. Based on that fact, we have now limited our daily trips and number of overall customers. 10 spaces will be sufficient for the number of patrons we will expect at any given time. Let me explain how. Since we have limited our trips from 4 to 3 trips per day and reduced the expected number of customers from 120 to 60 to 75 per day, we can now expect only 20 to 25 patrons at any given time. Using the math that your committee implemented on page 4, which assumes 3 patrons per vehicle, we would then only need to accommodate a maximum of 9 patron vehicles at any given time. With the 10 available parking spaces, this means we would have ample space for the 9 necessary patron vehicles, as well as 1 guide vehicle, which would be the van patrons are loaded into. And I would also like to state at this point that we don't plan to have trailers in that parking lot, so that would therefore negate any issues with backing a trailer in and out of the parking lot, as well as, I hope, clarify some of your concerns about blocking Minor Street. The remainder of guide vehicles would be stored at the separate location, along with buses and rafts and trailers. This change sufficiently addresses the concerns raised by your committee on page 6.
Carmen, is that any better?
Oh, she's moving.
Yes, perfect.
Oh. Sorry for the lack of sound for a few minutes.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Thomas Berkey, or TJ Berkey, 700 Skyline Drive. Idaho Springs.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Again, everyone, my name is TJ Berkey. I'm the chairman of the Idaho Springs Marketing Alliance. Thank you, Tom, from this commission. Let me speak briefly on behalf of Mile High Rafting and the board of the ISMA. I will be quick about this, but I think much of what has been, or much has already been laid out here. The activities versus services argument, which I see here. I do believe that actually because of its proximity to the Minor Street market, this would qualify more even in the services portion, as we believe that this will bring even more people into our restaurants, into retail shops, because they're already downtown and they're not being shipped over from Dumont or anywhere else, down that way. Now, that would just be our opinion, as it pertains to this matter. As far as impacted properties, traffic is minimal. We believe traffic impact would be minimal, even compared to other years where Myers Street has been open, and other rafting companies would use that thoroughfare very often. We don't see that at that end of town, at the east end of town, as being affecting the traffic through the businesses in the marketplace area. To more of that point, the 1600 block currently does have several unoccupied buildings. There's not the brand that as it would most likely be the most affected by any traffic shortage. We do see that the pedestrian use there is much less than the 1500 block or the 1400 block. That being said, we are very much in favor of the commission revising on this and allowing Mile High Rafting to operate out of that practice. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I have a couple items?
Yes.
Thank you, Commission. So just a couple of things. The traffic study document, I appreciate the presentation and getting that document. That document does have a few different assumptions in it than was previously submitted. And the presentation did note that the smaller amount of guests, the fewer number of trips per day from 4 to 3. So, we are certainly reviewing this upon the documentation we were previously given. The one thing I did also forget to mention is that, we understand that a separate property is being sought for the location of the buses, the rafts, etc. We do not have a written statement from a property owner allowing that at this point in time, and don't know how far away that is or how it correlates with use. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I think that's where we're at now. If we have any questions, that was one of the things what I was going to ask is where's the other location?
So we have the permission from Mark, the general manager at the Argo.
Wait,
Oh,
hi.
I'm sorry.
Can you come up to the podium for me?
Yep, certainly,
Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
certainly. I am Dan Costello, 243 Myers. 243 Ridgeview Trail, Idaho Springs.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Sorry, so what was the question?
Oh, that was my question, where the separate storage is. I mean, that was, it just so happened Jared was addressing it. I mean, I've got a ton of questions and notes. I'm sure everyone does, but.
Certainly. So I spoke with Mark at the Argo, and he has agreed to let us utilize some parking spaces there. We had also talked about the vans. As you're looking at the Argo, there's a parking lot to the left, which is where I think if everything goes according to plan, they intend to build their parking ramp. And so that parking area would be a good one for us to use the vans and, wait as we're waiting for people, and, the time between, it's only a half mile away. So it's
Okay, so you don't have a secured permission type contract, not contract, but something in writing that shows that you have this,
An MOU,
anything.
we would need that definitely,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So
And
you,
from the senior executives at the Argo, not the current managers.
but anyway, so you don't have a binding set
Agreement.
storage place yet.
no, they're just
Okay.
parking space.
Okay. Well, I mean, where are you gonna put your rafts, the trailers, all that? That's,
In the parking spaces at the Argo. They don't really use that lot right now. They have.
But you don't have a set contract with them is what I was asking, so. Okay, right?
I guess I'm not familiar with how they deal with that. I'm sure have something drawn up, but his
Another,
response was that, like, when you have the mule races in town and different things that the Argo has been utilized historically over the years to accommodate lots of different things, and we just didn't see this being a problem at all.
another question, I'll go with mine and then I'm sure we just, okay, another question, how many people go in a van?
We put 14 people.
In a van, okay, so 14 people in, no, I'm thinking of the parking. And then, so there's been no verification of how many parking spots are out here, my understanding.
There, can
It's up to the chair.
Yeah, I mean, if you're both, is it still sworn in?
I think so.
It's probably easier if you both stand up there. That's, we're good with that, so we can get the questions answered.
Sure. So if you turn to page 3 of the traffic analysis, it states that there are 10 parking spaces with that additional pavement available. So that is a
Okay,
confirmation.
but we don't
that
have
there
a
are 10.
plat with the plan on it. You don't have that available?
What would you like a map that, because we provided that and you said that it wasn't clear.
I guess I'm looking for something, I mean, I know when we have other places that need it, they gotta show exactly how many parking spots, where their lot lines are, all this type of stuff. So I know that has been a contentious area over the years where everything's not very laid out. So has anybody been able to come across something through the county, through the city or something with a laid out plat on that property?
You have these ones.
May as well all three.
Name and
stand.
address for the record.
My name is Faith. My last name is Faith, not Bith. Last name is hyphenated, it's Costello.
And your address.
Same address, 243 Ridgeview Drive.
Can you raise your right hand, please?
Yep.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
So the map that we provided you initially is from the county. And in there, you can see there are spray painted, now I put lines over it, there are spray painted actually 14 parking spots.
But it's still
But
not a
we are-
platted thing.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by plan?
Well, they can come up with something that's got the exact dimensions and everything. And then I don't know how much a parking spot, I don't know, Jared might be able to explain it better than I am.
Sure, absolutely. So typically we see a site plan that indicates, the location of the spaces, their size, diameter, location of storage. You were correct. I did receive a aerial image that indicated. The other thing I guess that I'm interested in is, if we count out there, there's maybe 12 spaces marked. Some of them are blocked. So maybe that's why the traffic engineer only counted 10. You have 14.
Well, I can answer that. So we
And then we
counted,
also only have one staff car indicated in the traffic study, and I guess I'm surprised at that.
So if you measure the diameter of the parking lot measures to 101.8 feet. Then the requirements under municipal code require a parking spot to be 9 feet in diameter. So we can all do basic math, that gives us at least 9 parking spaces, but that 10th one is definitely there.
I appreciate that. I'm just, once again, interested in the difference in versus spaces on here versus what's in the
versus
traffic
what?
study.
And then it has to
Spaces are
show that,
not, those parking spaces are not 9 feet wide. In your initial, the initial rebuttal was that we needed to follow, what was the section?
Municipal code 21-105.
Right, which says that any parallel parking spots need to be at least 9 feet wide.
90-degree parking.
90-degree parking spots need to be 9 feet wide. So although there are 12 places spray painted out there, we went out and measured, and we can see how if you want to only be 10, it would only be 10.
Okay, so I know there's supposed to be the easement that was talked about, that the driving path. So if a van pulls in, people are parked, where's the van gonna be parked to pick up the passengers?
In the 10th parking space. There are 9 parking
So
spaces.
now you got one less parking space
No,
because
because-
you're gonna use that for the van.
Yep, exactly. If you want me to run you through the map again, I'm happy
Nope.
to.
But we're
Okay.
fine. Okay,
Well,
and then
that-
my other question is, are you
Wait.
guys running a bike shop out of there too?
Yes.
So you're gonna have customers for the bike shop also?
Yeah.
And on top of the rafting? There's not enough parking.
Right, but the code requires one
Something.
parking spot per 400 square feet.
Oh, I
like the
understand that.
Parking access says, which
Yeah.
means we're well under that even running 2 businesses. We would need 8 parking spots to run 2 businesses. We would need 4 to run 1.
Okay, so I guess we're looking more for the layout of the parking.
So we need to hire a professional company, which will take time and a hell of a lot of money to spray paint those spots for us, not even knowing if we're gonna be permitted or not.
You know, when we get site plans from people proposing things, especially when it's where a conditional use, yeah, sometimes they
Okay,
do
so
have to
let's
do
assume
that.
that we get you the site plan.
Okay,
And
let
can
me
I speak?
continue with my questions here,
Okay.
okay? The restricted river access we addressed, and the traffic analysis I haven't looked at yet. I think let's let some of these guys, okay, you answered the one about gonna run the bike business also. Okay, I'll pass it on to UT, let her ask some of the questions. Or Kent had his hand up.
Does the traffic analysis account for the pedestrian mall with no traffic being on, no car traffic being on Minor Street? It does mention it. Okay, cool. And it mentions that the peak hours of the rafting is 1 to 5, but that it doesn't match peak hours of downtown. In the summer, 1 to 5 seems like peak hours to me. What are the peak hours considered to be for the surrounding network?
I guess I don't know. We do know that we would be pulling our vans directly straight out. We wouldn't even, if we were going to some of our drop-offs, we would be turning directly right out of the parking lot. Otherwise, we would be going straight out and over to.
Yeah, we're always gonna just pull out and either turn right on Colorado or left.
I'm sure y'all,
So I had the same question you did actually, and I believe after reviewing it closer, what that's trying to say is that peak hours for when our customers will be coming and going will not match peak hours for traffic in the city. So that's less related to parking and more related to the concerns for traffic on Minor Street, meaning
right,
that our customers won't be driving in and out at times when people would typically be driving to and from the city, because that's different than our trip timeline, because they're during the middle of the day and people
Something
usually
like
come in the morning.
that, something after.
right. And I apologize for
Oh, you're okay.
miscommunication. I was talking about traffic, not parking.
Oh,
Uh,
perfect.
And so, and I'm sure y'all would, with your vans, not be traffic, just a couple vans, it is more about the customers, totally agree. And so it says that the peak hours are 1 to 5, and having had a business in downtown in the summer, that's pretty peak for the downtown network. So
Sure, okay.
I guess I disagree with your engineer on when the peak hours and the time are.
Sure.
And I guess it's 2 vans per trip then, because if there's
Correct.
14 people in a van and 25, up to 25 on a trip. Right. Okay. Those are my questions.
So if you, okay, then you said there's 1 parking spot for the van, where's the other van gonna park to load up the
We'll
14 people?
time them so that one comes in, loads up, pulls out, other one pulls in, loads up, pulls out. That's why the Argo is actually a really nice location to operate from. It's only,
Well, I think we would have to see that in writing first on wherever the storage place is gonna be. That would be a requirement I would be looking at. Who else had some questions?
How many workers do you guys have?
oh, I'm sorry, you're asking like working at one time? Or what?
Yeah, like usually in rafting companies, the guides are there all day usually, right? Because they're waiting, hang out there until you get, sometimes you don't have scheduled trips and you're just waiting for people to show up. So I'm just wondering how many people you have working for you. If you have a plan for them to be at the location, if you have another plan that they're gonna be hanging out with the vans at the parking lot, or what's the plan around that?
So, right, I guess the plan is for the guides to be with the boats and the vans. So some of them will be at the foot end ahead of people coming down, you know, in a different vehicle. I guess I don't, there's like, people are typically doing things, so it's not like we generally have a lot of people sitting around, you know.
Well, I'd also like to clarify a little bit further that we're a lot smaller than any other rafting company. So typically we do only have 2 to 3 guides on staff at any given time. So they're all either about to take a trip out, coming back from a trip, and then the one person who would be at the location with the people arriving would be the one office person, which would be myself. I'm the office manager, so that would be the only person there, and the guides would then be at the river waiting for the people to come take the boats down.
I think it's a little problematic that you guys don't have a written agreement with Mark from the Argo. I think that would be ideal.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't realize that. I guess the way he was so nonchalant about the whole situation, just like we've got tons of room. We've done this in the past for multiple groups. Like it didn't occur to me that, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, I think when we're like making changes, you know, people says a lot of things and sometimes follow through and they don't. I think it's important for this kind of process to have those kind of things. Another thing that the reason why I was asking you about workers and you have a plan around that is because many years ago, I used to take pictures for rafting companies, and I have always seen a lot of people in the parking lot, a lot of like the guides hanging out there. I understand the company is way smaller, but even customers just hang out like it's a park. And I just a little bit worried the fact that it's a shared parking lot, people moving around. I mean, there's a lot of people changing in the cars, outside the cars. I worry about all the busyness of that area and having like such a small parking space.
May I ask a question? I hate to return a question, but my one question that I've had this whole time is, what are we so concerned about having, like what else is happening in that parking lot?
Safety, I think, is the main thing.
Safety from
For people that is driving in and out, people walking around there.
You're gonna see a huge increase of traffic flow with on-foot traffic. That is a connectivity point for the trail system and coming through, and we have people on foot, on skateboards, on every apparatus known to man, bicycles who are zipping through that are not paying attention.
So you don't want people around people?
Have you ever seen downtown Idaho Springs?
In the
on a weekend?
summertime,
I live here, yeah.
It's jam packed.
and that is a very congested area
So
for
you don't want,
pedestrian
but I guess my
traffic.
question is, then why are you concerned about there being more people in an area with people?
I think it's the use of the property is the questioning of it is
Right.
because there is that flow, but let's not get any, Jared's got a question.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious how many people fit in a raft. I haven't been rafting since I was a kid. So 6 people, we only have 2 to 3 guides. I guess to me that doesn't quite equate with.
Additional guides, I'm a guide.
No, doing that 3 guides would be
Yes.
25 people.
So
6, 12, 18.
3 additional guides, right? Myself, my partner is also a guide. We typically raft every day. 5 times 6 is 30, so.
Okay,
You know,
so
generally
more around the realm of 5. So yeah, I understand maybe
So-
you were counting them as employees rather than
in
entire business.
So with rafting, everything is kind of dependent on what's going on around us. And so in springtime, we're getting a good melt off and the water's up, then we want to have more people in boats, right? 6 people in big water is better than 2 because the waves will actually stop your boat, pull you back in, flip you over, and it just goes sideways from there. Whereas in lower water, it's nicer to have, sometimes 2 people in a boat because the water's low and you're dragging across rocks and, the whole thing is less intense in terms of you don't need the weight of the boat to carry you through. Like Argo 2 is one of those that can actually in big water just grab your boat and pull you back in. So
And then I did also just want to mention, I didn't really bring up the bicycle shop use because it is a permitted use as a retail component. So that's why it's not really contemplated in the conditional use item. So just wanted to clarify that for everyone.
Right. I guess I was thinking of the retail because of more parking.
Oh, yeah.
Because you do get people that will want to pull into the bike shop and park, and it's going to take up a parking spot when you're trying to park people rafting or bringing a van in or something like that. So I do see there being some conflicting businesses and taking up space. Okay, so is the trailer out there? I put that here, but okay.
there's a trailer, it's not our trailer, but that one's been there for
Okay,
least a couple
so
years.
people, are they putting on wetsuits, all this stuff?
Yeah, we'll have people,
Okay, and where are they doing this?
well, we have 2 large bathrooms.
That was gonna be my next question, actually.
All right. Certainly, yeah, we have 2 large bathrooms. We tell people to come like ready to go though, so typically like they're not needing to be changing into swimsuits and things. Sometimes they are, but like the wetsuits you just pull on over your shorts and so.
I know some places they then wash the wetsuits, dunk them in water
Sure.
and hang them, where are you gonna do all that?
So we have planned to have the people get dressed kind of right out where the vending machine is. There's some benches and things right there. So
On the
that's,
sidewalk,
I'm sorry?
on the sidewalk?
No, it's not on the sidewalk.
Oh, where that little,
There's a gated
Yep.
area actually around it separating
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
So that was kind of gonna be the changing area. The wetsuits and things, yeah, I mean, we're still gonna wash them in between each trip, We've got some racks that have big caster wheels on them, so we're gonna put all the wetsuits.
so that's
in
all
those.
the area that would have to be screened, my understanding. Derek? All that should be screened.
Anything stored outside. Now, if you're, pedestrian outside, that may be a different story, but anything stored outside.
So
I mean,
every
it's-
night you would have to put all that stuff away
Oh, of course,
because it would.
it gets
yeah.
put away every night.
No, I meant even the wash bin, everything, and the racks, everything would have to be put away
Sure.
every night.
I mean,
unless
that
it's screened.
actually, there's room for 3 dumpsters out there in the screened area that he already has built, so like it's not, yeah. We'll open the door, we can scoot everything right in there, you'll never see it.
And that dumpster and everything stays there, right?
There are no dumpsters in there, that's just a screen.
No. What's that screen area?
There aren't any dumpsters inside of it.
I think it is 4 dumpsters.
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
correct.
when
Yeah.
it was a
There
restaurant before.
probably
and
was
stuff.
at one point.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I'm sure, absolutely, based on the number of signs saying, do not dump your trash in here. I think you're correct.
Are you gonna have signs designated for parking for the raft company only? Because people are just gonna pull in and park and get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's already actually signs up to
But
that
yes.
effect, so.
What is the plan when people don't pay attention to the signs and park on the city spots?
Well, the sign says that they will be towed to Allied Towing, so I guess if it comes to that, I've never had that ever happen anywhere I've been before, so.
Don't you have any questions?
I have a specific question about your designated put-in location.
Yeah.
Where would that be?
The designated put-ins are Chicago Creek Park.
Okay, and you'll be putting in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Upper Dumont as well. Dumont.
Yeah, doesn't it depend on water?
Well, the beginner trip puts in at Chicago Creek, and the intermediate puts in out at Upper Dumont, Lower Dumont, but yeah.
Having a
those
hard
depend on
time
water.
figuring out how you take the people from here, you drive to that point, so then you have another vehicle that's driving the rafts.
The
you're-
vehicles
It's gonna
typically
take a
just,
lot more than 3 employees.
well, but I guess I wasn't counting van drivers on there,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, no, I meant, yeah, I just mean, that's logistically, it
Certainly.
seems complicated.
It is complicated to run a rafting company,
Yeah,
definitely.
the whole thing actually is 100% logistics. That's, you know, bullet A hitting bullet B at 102 and 47 seconds.
Just you have an issue with this not having it, so that's a good reason not to.
Will you guys, if you're not able to have the rafting company run from there, will you still do the bike company?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is our intention at the moment.
I mean, I agree that it would be nice to have that place activated. Sure.
Yeah, if we don't get approved on the rafting here, then we will probably move the operation for rafting down to Canyon City. So I don't think we're gonna be able to figure any way to operate here without that location.
Is that just because there aren't other locations or what?
Yeah, there 100% are not other locations. I have been trying for a year and a half, and there just is nothing. You know, open space owns a lot of incredible property, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to get them to acquiesce to allowing me to use any of it. So, yeah, and you know what's available commercially is pretty few and far between. We explored the old church up in Lawson as well, but that's not zoned for commercial use. So
Sounds like you've done a lot of work on it, and it'd be fair to say that even if you don't happen to have written agreements for parking or other stuff, probably way to use some parking spaces somewhere.
right,
Makes sense to me.
well, 100%. I don't know exactly what fits on my property physically, and I haven't talked to my wife about it, but like, you know, I'm a solution oriented kind of person. So if I'm allowed the opportunity to find a solution, I will.
I guess one of the issues I have is on the zoning description that we have on page 2, if you guys want to look at it, it says the rafting operations and headquarters, including employee accommodations, all operations related to this use, including but not limited to employee parking, patron transportation, buses, vans, storage of rafts and equipment must be conducted entirely on the site, on the lots or lots owned, leased, or rented by the rafting operation. And
So,
I don't see us meeting us
so
being able
the
to meet this,
petitioner is asking for
a conditional
relief
use,
from
right?
that with conditions. You are correct, though, that is part of the
Right.
definition.
If you read the paragraph below it, it explains that that's actually what is being questioned here. That's the whole reason for that
Yeah.
section.
How do you think, well, I guess that doesn't matter, but the paid parking. Because the customers will have to do paid parking.
Mhm.
And your employees will have to do paid parking.
Gives more money to the city. We're happy to contribute to the
Well,
city we
that's,
live in.
I'm just saying.
I think
There's a lot
our,
of people that turn their nose at it.
I think our raft guides will probably end up parking at the Argo, you know, like they'll roll up there, get everything ready, and then they'll be like in that mode of
I don't
between trips or on a trip for the day.
I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I don't think it's in good business with referencing it using the Argo when you don't have a written agreement here. But that's just,
Okay, well,
putting that out there.
wherever the location is, and there will be a location, that is still what's gonna happen there. The
and
guides will drive.
what happens? Well, I think that we need to have that information, is the way I look at this, is we need that information. That's a piece that's missing here. The piece with the lot out here, the designations, the plot, to me is missing. We don't have that. I don't think we're in a situation to approve it without those things, especially with the parking out here. Because I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out less. And I don't know why I'm saying that, just because I know there's been issues with that property over the years. I served on city council for years, and I just remember we always had issues with this over here. And have they ever been resolved, to tell you the truth? I don't think so. But I think it's time for, if we're gonna approve something, then we need to have that figured out.
I guess I would have two
And
questions.
it doesn't matter if it's your business or
Right.
anybody else's, even with the bike shop there, I think it's something that needs to be figured out, because otherwise the public should be able to pull in there and park.
Can I ask what specifically, I'm genuinely just trying to understand what you're looking for there, because I feel like we're confused as to what you want done. Like, do you want us to restripe it? Do you want,
I think it
What?
needs to be a surveyed plot as the property, what's owned and what
So
you
you're just
can.
looking for a survey?
Well,
Jared, help
but-
me.
So typically the site plan is a dimensional drawing that still includes the dimensions of the parking spaces, et cetera. So it sounds like the spaces are not compliant currently. So we'd be looking for something that is going to be able to be measured out. Now, we'll have to double check on if it needs to truly be surveyed or not, but we need something that needs to.
I'm guessing there's a survey that we can get from the owner. I work with survey companies. So I see getting a survey, I guess, I'm with Madison, I need to know exactly what, survey will give you all the measurements.
I think it'll show also where, from what I understand, there's an easement that with the drive-through part of it too. So that needs to be on that also, because I mean, for all we know, 3 of those parking spots, that easement might cut right across it.
No,
We
the
don't know
easement-
that.
The easement is out here, kind of beyond, or where the trailer is and slightly
And
beyond
this
it.
side, that's,
And they have the paperwork backing up that they do own that.
okay.
But my understanding is that that is gonna be kind of a legal nightmare to either have it or not have it. So I don't know. I'm sure they would probably also like to have, a resolution regarding that, but I don't know that we can provide that right now.
Yeah, and in good faith, I don't look at being able to approve this without seeing that. And because I think it's something that's,
the
that
easement or
the
the
city needs to
survey?
have for approving this.
What are you asking for?
A survey, I think he can walk us.
I can assist there. I mean, we do have site plan,
Okay,
requirements as well, so I can assist you.
okay.
More questions?
Yeah, I understand the reason for your rush with this season and everything. And I understand what you're saying about it. You aren't able to get the property. I mean, at the same time, there's, processes that have to go through and stuff. And what's kind of your drop dead date on being able to move in, just to understand the kind of circumstances here, like, when you would say, well, this isn't working, I'm gonna look again
So
and say.
what's happening right now is people are booking trips for the Clear Creek. And if we're not able to do that, I'm gonna have to refund all of that money, right? There's a fee associated with that. Like, are you asking for the cost specifically?
No, I'm just curious, like, I understand.
So the longer it takes, just the more it's gonna cost.
Yeah.
If we, if we take a month to figure this out and then give it thumbs down, it's gonna cost more than now. So I guess it's a moving date, because I want to raft this season and I want like, this is what we do. And it's right now. So yeah, we want to make it happen. Oh, is there a drop dead date? I mean, I don't know. It's, I mean, mean,
Oh, I understand the not being able to do a specific thing.
yeah, in my
But
mind, the drop date that was like last February, and they're like, we had to have this figured out. And I thought I had it figured out, it's just that I am totally before now unschooled in all of this, so, it's just been a lot to try to wrap my brain around and get traction with, so. Yeah, I mean, I get it, you guys have your hands tied. I mean, what'll end up happening is just, I guess nothing will happen.
And as a heads up for you, Kent, our meetings are usually the first Wednesday of the month. And Jared reached out to us to see if we would hold another meeting to help their scheduling. So that's why we're having a meeting
Oh, yeah, I
tonight.
understand.
Yeah,
I
so-
appreciate it.
So for that to be able to happen again, yes, we could accommodate and do that again. So, to help move it along, if that's where we're at with this.
Right.
More questions? I guess for me, it's wanting that and the storage agreement of whatever it is you're coming up with. And looking at the screening part as far as, I mean, you're gonna pull stuff out of a trailer every day, is that what you're thinking? And, yeah,
Well, no, I think we're gonna pull it out from the screened area that's right there, honestly. We'll utilize that space.
So may I ask, would the trailer indicated on the existing plan not be located there then? Is that the proposal? I just want to make sure that we're all clear on what the proposal
I
is.
guess if, I guess I'm not sure. I would like the option of having the trailer, more storage space, we are obviously confined over there. So I guess.
And the answer
Yeah,
can be
what is-
that you still plan on doing it. That's,
I
I
mean-
just want to know that we're all on the same page.
I don't want the trailer to be the reason that I'm not rafting. How's that sound? Okay, so I would love to have the trailer. It would be a hindrance not to have the trailer, but again, I would like to raft this season. So it really depends more on what you guys
and the
want.
trailer, there's enough property there to.
Are you, just to be clear, are you talking about replacing the trailer?
Yes, we're talking about replacing the trailer.
With a different trailer.
Yeah, that one is not the one.
Really, nothing would change. The trailer that exact size there, I guess.
Yeah, pretty
Something
much
close
the
to it.
exact size, but it is an enclosed trailer, so.
That's if that's their property.
What's currently on the property?
Well, they
That's
do have
their trailer.
documentation saying.
I'm just asking.
No, believe me, I know,
We are the ones saying.
it's, yeah,
You are the ones saying it.
Well, what was the issue before, between Jiggy's and the city?
it was when it was owned by Jiggy's, yeah.
If you guys are able, willing, can come back and with more stuff to support your plan. I think it will be important for you guys to show us on that site plan, also kind of location for the, I say, like the uses that you guys have, like where people's gonna be changing, space for people to hang out while they wait for the van. So we can see that clear in the plan. I think this parking lot is too small to be able to accommodate that. All that stuff that happens in the rafting company, even if it's small, but obviously, I'm not there with a measuring tape or anything. So if you guys are able to come out with that, I think that will be helpful. And also with a formal agreement, not necessarily something notarized, but an agreement with whoever is letting you store the stuff.
Well, so what exactly are you looking for in terms of that? Like, if it's not the Argo in that parking lot over there, like, well, what, like, you just don't want anything here? Or, sorry.
Oh, our city.
Okay, Carmen, go.
Sorry, good question. And under our code, it does permit off-site parking to be located, on off-street parking to be located off-site of the use with which it's associated, that's okay as a concept. The code requires two things to have, sort of a satellite parking lot. One is that parking lot, that satellite, be within 600 feet of the principal use that it's serving in the commercial context. It's a little closer for residential, but we're not talking about that. In our case, your offsite parking satellite needs to be within 600 feet of this property. And then secondly, to your point of documentation, Chair Olson and the commission and applicants, what the code requires is a quote, long-term lease for that parking with the owner of the property.
Okay, so you're saying 60 feet?
600.
600 feet.
So is that for customers or for storage like they're talking about?
So is that for like the vans, the buses, there's no buses, the vans, the trailers and the rafts, 600 feet? It's not for employee parking, it's for
Or customer
their
parking?
supplies.
The 600 feet standard is for the required off-street parking that the use it needs to meet under the code. It's not specific as to use really, it just, the number of parking spaces that this use requires, that kind of math that Jarrett does, applying the parking standards, those spaces are what need to be within 600 feet. Now, let's say if you're asking, or the applicant is proposing an off-site storage area, right, that really is about parking or storing things that aren't really going towards the calculated parking spots, that would be different. And that would not, in my mind, in my view, that would not need to be within 600 feet because that's not what that code section particularly pertains to. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
So that kind of makes it impossible.
No,
There's,
not at all.
no, what you said,
They do have parking. We have
there's-
enough parking.
the 600 feet,
We don't know if they have enough parking.
well, correct me if I'm wrong, Carmen, but it seemed like what you were saying that the 600 feet was regarding actual parking for employees and customers. And they're talking about off-site storage of racks and equipment,
Yeah.
two different issues, it sounds like.
Does that have to include their employee parking then? So their employees would have to have that accommodation, 600 feet, within 600 feet, and it can't be city parking?
Well, they are, Jared, how many spaces are required for like true parking spaces for parking? What is the number for the proposed use?
Per the code, it's quite small actually, because I can run it for the bike shop as well, but for the rafting alone, it's by the size of building. And so it's 1 per 400 for the size of the building. So according to the code, you're correct, they meet the number of parking spaces required. However, as I mentioned, the conditional use would allow us to get and going above and beyond that if we felt that that was insufficient. I do think that the standard of 1 to 400 for such a use, is something we should look at in the future. And that's why I reflected that in the reports. But by that definition, I think that, it wouldn't have to be under 600 for at least the storage. But I do believe we still need to know some way, shape, or form where things are going to be stored. And I think that is certainly a condition that could be placed. One of the reasons why I feel that way is that we should also verify that the location that's being proposed for storage is allowed to have storage also. And so those are things I just want to take into or have the amount of parking per their code requirement as well. So those are the things that we want to double check.
I haven't talked to the Argo about storage per se. I've spoken with them about parking spaces, just parking thing.
Which would be trailers as well, correct?
Yes.
That's what I meant.
Trailers
Okay,
attached
but-
to van.
I guess in
Right.
the calculation that you're doing, you have to include the bike shop because it's gonna be two businesses. So the requirement for parking is gonna increase because you've got the two businesses. So that needs to be,
It will, and we can run those numbers.
yeah. If you were to run them off the top of the head, just so they have an
We
idea.
have run them.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry.
So-
To what the code says, she
We have not run
understands,
that.
she understands what I'm asking.
So, the difference will be that a retail store, which is what we would call the bike shop, would be a retail enterprise, has a different, square footage requirement.
Okay,
I don't recall off the top of my head, I apologize. I think it's 1 to 250. So we can run that, those numbers, absolutely.
okay.
So Jared, would that add to the number of parking spots that are needed? Because you have two different uses there?
So you wouldn't add them right on top of one another.
Right.
But you would take the higher amount because more of that building would be utilized for retail. Yeah, you would have to take more stringent requirement.
So we wouldn't need to add the 5 to like whatever number is for the other one.
So normally the calculations take, if you can try to divide it out. Normally it takes a building and says this amount of space, typically they're two different tenants, right? This much square footage is utilized for retail. This amount of square footage is utilized for, rafting operations. In your case, my guess, please correct me if I'm wrong, but my guess is that most of it will kind of intertwine. And so it'll be hard to truly differentiate between the two. And so that's why I propose just utilizing the, I think it's 250. I can look that up.
Oh, got it.
Retail requires one.
I know, which is odd.
Right.
Yeah.
That is weird.
I looked up the parking code and I was quite surprised. Yeah.
So then we take that and we divide that for rafting and that mechanism.
No, you take the number.
Whichever
The
one is
height,
bigger.
Whichever
one
one's
is
higher.
Okay.
is what he said. Okay, do we have any more questions, comments?
Just note that we got a little distracted and didn't get to your question which type of document from wherever he's keeping his vans and rafts and stuff.
Well,
Simple
from what
letter.
Carmen just said, it has to be a lease agreement.
Well, was that referring to
That
offsite
was
parking or
customer
offsite
parking. Customer
storage?
parking, which we're not doing, it's storage.
No, I think she meant the storage. I don't know.
I still think that either way.
That is a great question.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Adam.
Yep, whatever the use, right? This is in the realm, I think, of conditions that are reasonable to require within the scope of a conditional use review. And a long-term lease, some written lease agreement in place, even for storage, is, I think, both reasonable and fair and defensible. Planning Commission, if you want to ask for that as well.
Did that, okay.
It does.
Okay. Okay, any other questions?
So, just to clarify, so our season, we anticipate it running until August 15th. So a lease for the vehicles until August 15th would be acceptable? Or,
Carmen, is there a time limit on it? I mean, I think at first you said a year, but that's
it's
not
a
practical.
long-term lease.
Long-term, right?
Yeah, and the issue with that, great question, right? I think the code contemplates, because this is a conditional use, right? This is a zoning entitlement that attaches to and runs with the land, conceivably for many, many, many years, right? If not in perpetuity, if it's not abandoned or surrendered or revoked. So if, right, one of the requirements is adequate storage, adequate parking, then that's why the code refers to a long-term lease, to ensure that next drafting season, we all hope that if you get up and running, you're a great success and you contribute to the Idaho Springs, right, commercial community for years to come. And if that's the case, the city just needs to ensure that not only this season, but next season and next season, that parking or that storage, that use is in place. So I think the lease should be long-term more than this year, even if the actual use of the property is only for 3 or 4 months of a calendar year, if that makes sense.
I think that that's totally fair. I think that with the nature of a rafting business, it gets tricky. So like this last winter, we rented just for the winter a place to actually store our stuff, not a usable space. And that tends to happen. Like we don't want to pay a lease on, 4 months of using something and then pay that the whole year round. So we,
Would it be
So your
possible-
long-term lease might be with a place and it's gonna be from May 1st to September 1st every year for the next 5 years.
So you need to
That's
Exactly what I was
that.
gonna ask. Yeah,
Okay.
Jared,
May I ask, I completely understand that mentality of trying to do a long-term lease for a seasonal item. Where do you park the vans off season, I guess?
right now they're at the previous location and they've allowed us to use it as storage. So our previous location was purchased by new owners. And they're running their ATV company out of it and our lease was up. And so we aren't using their office and we aren't running a rafting company out of there anymore, but they have a lot of space. So they allowed us to pay them rent to store our stuff in a certain area of the property.
The reality of this has all been really fluid and Santiago and I only began talking about using that space in the end of February. So all of this is kind of new and the whole style of the way that we plan to operate now is different than how we were going to do it out there. So really, I'm not sure we need buses anymore. They're just things that I got when I bought the company, but at the moment, I'm feeling like we should just sell the buses and in terms of storage, the property that we own and live at has ample space to house vans and they did actually all this past winter. So I guess what are we really talking about here? I can store everything that we have at my house as it is.
we're talking your day-to-day parking of the
Yeah.
vans and trailers
So they
and
need like a
rafts.
4-month lease that
Yeah.
says that every
Yeah.
summer they'll let us
Right.
run.
We do
vans and stuff.
agree and understand, we're only talking about 4 parking spaces, right? It's a van and a trailer and a van and a trailer.
It seems like even if it was one, you'd need an
Yeah.
agreement with someone. But if he does decide to fall back and keep even the daily use of these vans on his location on your personal property,
Right.
sounds like it might be more driving, but I understand you do what you have to do. to
Well,
make
I
the
drive
business
down
work.
every day from my house
If,
anyway, so it's.
If they
actually
ended up doing
not an
that,
issue.
what type of document would they need?
Thank you.
Well, I guess, where are they gonna park the van and the trailer when they're sitting there waiting on trips?
That's what
It's
they-
not parked, there's a person with it and they're waiting to do things. So the guy at the Argo would be at the Argo parking lot in the van waiting for us to say,
That's what I
hey,
mean.
we're
He's
ready.
gonna need a place to wait.
So it's not,
So if they decided that that place was at their private property, what type of document would they need to show that in?
because
writing?
With their own.
actually, the Argo thing was just
plan.
more of a convenience of. So we could do the exact same thing at the cemetery turnaround, right? Our vans could wait there and come down when they're needed.
It sounds like you have a place that would work as a great long-term lease backup, and
Yes.
if you happen to find a seasonal place on top of it, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you could have a long-term backup where it would always work no matter what.
Yeah, and we would have the vans and the trailers waiting at the private property to pick up the trip. So then, yeah, like you asked, what kind of documentation we need to make that happen?
I think it's a
That's
plan,
her.
right? Yeah.
Sorry.
Carmen, I would think it's still a lease within yourself, or it's a plan that you're presenting that you're gonna go by. If it's his own property that he wants to do the storage, the offsite, if it's his own home property, what type of lease agreement then?
I think the requirement would be the same because I know it seems overly maybe formalistic or weird, but if the applicant here. If the applicant here is it technically an LLC or remind me, sorry, Jared, yes. Liberated? No, that's the owner.
Mile High Rafting is an S corp.
It's an S corp, okay, so it's a corporation. You know, Mr. Costello, do I have your name right?
Yes.
Oh.
She's both places.
Oh, okay, sorry. If you are, sir, the owner of property, right, and you clearly consent to the Mile High Rafting Corporation for this, if it's, you know, if it obtains the CUP, if you want to grant to that corporation a lease to use a portion of your property, I would be fine with that. I would accept that. I think, you know, we treat the corporate applicant like its own person, and if you hold property somewhere else, I get it. You probably formed the corporation and maybe you're the president and CEO and everything, but to have a lease that we as a city can say, okay, we know that in future years there's adequate storage or parking for this property. I think we would still like that. We don't need to make it hard for you. It doesn't need to be 18 pages long, but I think we would still want something in writing.
Okay, I can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify that we're basically looking for two different leases, the off-season and the during the season.
No, during the season.
Just during the season, that's all you care about. Okay, good.
And as long as it's not still located on, you know, that property.
Yeah.
Take them back to your location, you know, on an off season, don't really care. I think the main thing that we're concerned with is that, yep, they're located someplace in town. You know, we would like to see permission in the form of a lease in that regard. That's more where I think.
Yeah.
All the lots in town are gonna be something else within 2 years.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna close. Oh,
I would just like to clarify and have Carmen weigh in perhaps, Jared, on the other item that's needed or requested, the plat. Can we just have a little more clarification about what's needed there?
Yes, there
Or maybe Carmen might want to weigh in too. I don't know where that would come from. I just want to make sure the applicant's clear on what's needed there.
yeah, we had talked about, you know, getting together after the.
I understood, but I just want to make sure we know in the
I
hearing
think
what
thank you.
what we understand is needed to make sure.
Okay, I think from, and correct me, planning commission, if you think my comments are wrong, but to paraphrase, we need something that has, you know, precise, you know, location of parking spaces. We need something that shows the location of the trailer. We need something that shows the location of the places where you might be getting dressed or there for pickup, etc., on something that's preferably darn close to being scalable.
and
Is that a plat?
Well, that which would be a plat.
So a survey plat?
and the easement lines.
Now, so the easement will show on any title work that you've required from us. It may or may not show on a plat, and there's 3 different surveys that we can present you with.
Yeah, what
There's
was
an
the-
ILC, there's the
Some-
survey plat. Did you want the plat? Because that could potentially, you know,
Normally we get a plat with a scalable drawing on,
well, that's what a plat is.
but it's scalable of like the newly proposed locations of things as well. So, you know, I would
So
scale
like a
out.
survey company wouldn't necessarily do that. We would have to do that by hand.
You'd have to superimpose that over the top of something.
And Jared, that's what you're proposing to assist them with? Is that, did I hear that earlier or no?
I was proposing to assist them with a couple of things. One would be clarification. Two, though, would be, I believe we have some documentation about this parking lot area. I was going to do some digging in that regard.
So if we have a survey from the current owners, which I'm sure they have, and we take that survey and we draw over it where we're putting things, you're okay with that?
Yeah, but not like what you guys present. It has to be a little more like scalable, like be good dimensions. So a good scale, not just a square. It's like, oh, in that area, it's more like this is a 12 by 10, space kind of thing.
So that's a whole different thing, and that we would have
You
to
could just get a
hire
designer to-
somebody to do that for us. And getting us surveys right now take 3 to 4 weeks.
I don't think you will need a survey for that. You can just get a designer to draw on it, a designer, a
Like-
What kind
drafter.
of design?
Like the gentleman who did our traffic
Um,
analysis.
no.
or-
I mean, that for.
I think Carmen might, yes, Carmen.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Jared, do you, and I, all due respect, we couldn't do this right now, but might you have a nice example? I mean, you get site plans all the time. I think perhaps you could give the applicants a good example of the kind of thing that we're talking about.
And, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I have seen in the past where somebody takes a plat and takes a scale bar, and as long as it's scalable, I mean, I've done that. It's not amazing. It's not computer aided, but if I could, have 9 feet scalable and take a scale bar onto that plat, I mean, I'm willing to at least review that and work with them on compliance of that if the planning commission feels that is.
So he's
acceptable.
meaning if you can figure that scale out, it's not like you have to hire an architect or a surveyor or somebody to do
We
it.
have the survey and
I
we
mean,
put it in
that's
our
always an
graphics
option, but
program.
yes.
Okay.
So ideally, just to clarify, I was trying to drill down on what we're hoping to see. It is, if there's an existing plat, right? And just superimposing what the requirements are, what the layout would be
To scale.
for the parking,
Yeah.
for the storage.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yes,
Okay.
when I'm, requested by the city to do a quick and dirty site plan, I find a plat of some form, I print it to scale, and I go, take my scale bar, and that's how I normally do it. Like I said, not perfect, not amazing, but for something of this scale, where it's not, we're not putting up new buildings or something, I personally think that as long as it's legible, et cetera, that we can probably work with that.
The one thing you might check though is if there is a requirement though on the size of the parking spots.
We
Oh,
can
yeah,
check.
yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think we're in agreement on the
Just-
size.
Yeah, we
just
definitely
because
are.
all of a sudden it's like, it'll get too small.
No, yeah, we went off the municipal code, so just.
Okay, did that help you?
Yeah, and it's, Carmen, you all okay with that from your standpoint? Okay, great.
So
Thank you.
we're looking for a lease, a long-term lease and drawings on,
Where we're putting.
that's it, those two things.
Verify how the parking and that is the parking and stuff.
And if I might add, I think it needs to show the parking, but also the storage,
Sure.
right,
So,
in the
Which we're.
fenced in area.
Okay, gotcha.
I think it just needs to show that.
Just that we will be there and there
And
will
where
be.
the trailer would go.
So the trailer, I just want to be clear about this, like, I'm happy to draw in to scale exactly where the trailer is gonna be. Are we all okay with the trailer? Like, there's been a trailer, I feel like we're okay, but I just want to make sure that that's okay.
Now, with the
that-
trailer, are people gonna be standing there taking stuff out of it, or you're just using it to store stuff in?
Just storage.
Yeah, it would just be
Just storage.
storage.
Okay, because I was gonna say, if you're using it and people are gonna stand there and be
No.
taking out
It would
stuff,
just sit
there's
there.
gotta be room around it.
Right,
Right,
yeah, no,
okay.
absolutely, no, we won't be, no, definitely not.
But if you have any objections to the trailer, like I think what he's saying is we would
Yeah.
prefer you raise them now opposed to when we come with these documents. We would rather address that now. And if you have objections, we're open to them.
Or the
just
trailer's
know
gonna take
that-
up more parking.
Well, that area that the trailer's on right now is not part of our parking.
Yeah, we didn't.
That's not one of the spots.
I have a question.
And it's not the easement and it's not the city's property.
Correct.
A question related to the trailer
Yeah.
that you guys were talking about. That's where you store the boats after the day. What would you store there?
At the separate storage location, which as of right now, I believe we're agreeing to write up a lease agreement.
She's asking what we would store in the trailer.
Oh, yeah.
I am not sure, because with the screening area, quite honestly, like having the wetsuits air dry, in there is better than in an enclosed trailer. So like, really, I hadn't been thinking about the screen in space
Okay.
in terms of our use, right? Until tonight. So, but now that actually like solves a bunch of problems. And I don't know
I think I
that
know
we
what you're
need them.
getting. So we have lots of wetsuits and lots of booties. We do not use them every day and we rotate them so people aren't putting on wet stuff, right? So that would be like backup and we pull out what we needed
We
for
also
the
have,
day, right? And then we gear up, we wouldn't be gearing up people outside the trailer and then at night we'd be able to put stuff away. Our thought was that they were gonna dry in there,
My question was actually if you guys were going to store boats there, which you already told me that you want. I was just wondering if the plan was to take them out before the day starts and put them back out, but
The
never mind,
wetsuits,
that's not
okay.
gonna happen.
Gotcha.
Yeah, okay. Boats
Yeah,
won't
no,
be
I
there.
think, honestly, I think our boats are just gonna be on our trailers attached to our vans, like all summer. They're just not ever coming off, except.
different vans than the ones who would pick people up from our parking lot.
Just another question. Did I hear you say this trailer will go away and then your other trailer will come in, or?
If that was gonna happen, that is absolutely what we do. That is not our trailer though.
Understood.
I don't know I don't know anything about it, so I would like to move that trailer, and put mine in there. It's a bridge I haven't tried to cross yet though, so I don't know.
Okay, so we've got that part, those two, and how many
I'm sorry.
required parking spots with the two businesses?
Can I add one more thing? I don't know if it's by code or I guess a condition or whatever, but I would also like to, you guys are talking about the Argo or maybe your property. I would just like to make sure you guys have a plan for when you are in between trips and where are you gonna be waiting? Since
Right.
you can be here, where you guys are gonna be.
Well, yeah, so if the Argo, I mean, again, I think that we're 100% there. But if we're not, the cemetery turnaround is,
So they're already doing this, like all the rafting companies, they pull their stuff, they park it at Chicago Creek, they wait for other customers to come because you don't always put all of your people in the vehicle that's carrying the boats, right?
ABA just
Or-
leaves their boats down.
Yeah, they just leave their boats at Chicago Creek, piled up right down there, and so, we may have people guides waiting down at Kermit's, which is by Two Brothers. We may have, and it depends on the time of year, it depends on the day, it depends on how many people are there. So we're always moving. We're always like, we have CB radios, like.
And because of one of the things that you brought up is why
I
I'm
can
asking.
walk you through really briefly.
It's cool, like what I was going in, you guys don't have to answer right now, I'm just saying when you come back, just make sure you have that information, but the
Yeah.
reason why I was asking that asking for you guys to have a plan is because we don't, nobody, not even just us, but nobody want you guys to be parking in illegal spots.
Yeah.
Taking up spots where, are on the way of other
Oh, yeah.
parking. I don't think it's cool and I'm not saying that you guys are not cool. I'm just saying anybody that is sitting in there for hours, taking all the barely spots for 3 buses, be sitting there because they don't have anywhere else to go, because that would be another problem, create more traffic in that situation, which already is kind of
So you're
chaotic.
asking that for next time we walk you through our plan for that?
Just to make
Is
sure that you guys have a plan to know what's gonna happen.
that- Definitely,
Kind of laying out your circulation.
definitely. We can do
More or
that.
less.
Sure.
Yeah. That's fine.
Sorry, just one other question. Jared, I know Carmen asked earlier, and I just want to, and maybe you don't have it right at the moment, but did we confirm the required number of spaces? Did we confirm that?
Well, it depends on the square footage. So I just took
Of the
a kind of an
building?
aerial image
Right.
of it. And I had about 2,000 square feet.
Okay,
The traffic study talks about 2,497 square feet, but I don't know if that's, okay, I don't know if that's
That's what's
with
registered with the
residential
county.
also.
okay,
But if it is the full 2,400, it's one space per 300
okay,
or 8.32 spaces
okay.
is what the.
Well, I see what you're talking about, like, we would take out the square footage of the apartment.
Because the apartment is required to have 2 parking spaces for residential use, and then you would have the other. So that's why I'm,
So are you telling us that we need to come back with 8 parking spots?
I'm telling you that I want to, if it gets continued, we'll just say, if, I want to work with you to know exactly how much square foot you're renting versus how much the apartment has,
Okay.
to better be able to verify the spaces.
Right, that's
I
fine.
didn't think it was as important in my initial staff report, so I ballparked it at the time because I was operating off of the rafting rather
Gotcha.
Let me ask another question. So I thought I heard earlier that the apartment wouldn't be occupied or not by you all?
Yeah, it's currently leased to Ye and Associates.
Right.
There's a lady who.
Well, that's gonna be a parking spot too
Okay,
then.
so will that, as far, I realize you don't own the property, but is that use likely to continue?
It's
I-
month to month at the time,
Okay.
and, it's just as long as that contract is here, which we've been given is anywhere
We
from
don't
like
know when it
January
is.
until March.
Okay, I guess where I'm going with that is, would that
I see where you're-
affect the parking count?
for the site, yeah.
Okay, so that would increase it by 2, is that what I'm hearing? So it'd go
But
up?
it might decrease because I took the number that they gave me. So I don't know what the square footages are.
Gotcha.
So I don't have a solid answer for that.
That's
So
fine,
it's hard for me to.
just trying to nail down as much as we can here. I realize some might have to be researched, but. okay.
But you are correct that a residential use, I guess it is apartment, so, they're, put it this way, it's largely most likely going to be required to have 2 spaces. If it's an efficiency unit at 1.25, it might be over.
So that means it'll take another parking spot.
Yeah.
Of your total that has to be designated for that.
Right, but we're still over
Yeah.
what we need,
Yeah.
I think.
Just,
Yeah, no.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think also.
They've been very clear about her parking spot. It's yours.
I think,
The tenant.
Yeah.
Well, in Santiago.
Yeah.
I think what the commission and the chair are referencing also is there's kind of required spaces, which is true. But then because it is a conditional use, there's also what we feel are practical spaces that are required for the actual use. And that's where, we can come up with the exact number of what is in the code, true. But I think we're also going to be looking at, your traffic document a little closer and, seeing how that correlates with what we think is what you're proposing as a use. So that's where I think the difference is, and I think that's what the chair is inquiring about.
okay, any more questions? Okay, we're gonna close the public meeting and it is 7:35. And now we go to a motion, and I guess my question first is gonna be to Carmen. Would we want to do a motion or do a continuation of the public meeting?
I'm gonna answer your either or with a yes. It sounds to me, Commission, like where I heard the discussion going, not that I am leading you, but if the commission wishes for the applicants to come back to you with some more information and evidence for you to receive at a future date, I would recommend that you move to continue the public hearing, and please do include that in your motion to be clear that you were going to accept additional evidence and testimony, right, on a future date. I would also highly, strongly recommend, if not require, that we figure out what that date is now so that the applicants know, so that anybody who is watching know, interested members of the public know. And if we figure out that date, not only are we telling anybody interested who's listening, but we also save the expense and time of reposting if we have a date certain than we know tonight. So, long answer, but a motion to continue the hearing for the purpose of asking the applicant to submit the additional materials discussed in the hearing. I think that's fine. We don't need to lay everything out in the motion. And if it has a date certain, that's, I think, perfect, Charleston.
I mean, I would recommend, and you take this or leave it, of course, but we do have a regularly scheduled meeting in 2 weeks. I don't know if that is enough time for the applicant to get things together, and basically it'd be a week and a half, because I know it'd only be a week to get on in the packet.
So it'd be May 4th.
I apologize, whatever that Wednesday is.
Yes. May 4th.
You guys, I'm trying to work with you here.
Yeah, no, we'll be here, whatever you say, we'll be here.
I would not recommend, next Wednesday. I know that would expedite things, but it only gives about less than 12 hours to get things done. So I would recommend 2 weeks at a minimum.
Okay, so
Do we have anything scheduled for May 4th already? Or no?
We do not.
I would prefer May 4th instead of.
Yep, no, if that's right now, and if it gets canceled, it gets canceled. I mean,
And just a matter of process, if it goes to the May 4th Planning Commission, the hearing is continued to that date, then, the final decision is city council, and the city council meeting is the 9th.
which is good
Is that
timing.
workable from your standpoint, you think? Sure.
I mean, if I acquire the documentation and we come before us and everything moves through, then we can turn it around and get it on the agenda at that point.
The final decision is city council.
Just to tell you guys, the evidence or anything to get into the packet would be due on the 28th. To be in the packet for the 4th. So that's what he's saying. It's like not really 2 weeks because we gotta get it to us by.
Right. Our document you put in today should have been submitted last week.
Right.
And that's why,
Got
for
it.
instance, all of the commission and you as the petitioner received the packet on Friday, the Friday before. But our deadline is normally the Thursday at noon before to get all that processed.
Okay.
That's our standard operating procedure.
Got it.
Okay, with all that, we have a motion to continue.
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing for the purpose of discussing their conditional use with the documents that we discussed during the meeting.
That's what you did.
Okay, roll call. That was a second.
Just to clarify,
May I just-
to May 4th.
To May 4th.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Cindy Olson,
Yes.
Don Reimer,
Yes.
Jordan Hudson, Chuck Howard, Tracy Stokes,
Yes.
Uchi,
Ursula Cruzarelli.
thank you. Kathleen McGarry.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else for our meeting?
I have no other
Updates?
business or updates for you at
I
this
don't know
time.
where my agenda is. Okay, with that, we'll adjourn the meeting of April 20th, 2022. So May 4th.
Thank you guys so
Yeah,
much.
thank
for
you
taking
very
so
much.
much time.
Yeah, we appreciate the special attention.
Thank you, Carmen.